Okay, let's go on a tour of SolidWorks 2024. A lot of this is, I try to stay consistent and it will be repeats from previous videos, but um, I think you would find that any of them that you watch previous that I have that same logic, that same foundation to work from. So um, the projects that we're going to be doing and the things that come up during this particular round with this version of the software make the videos a little different or unique. So for any software that you pick up and start to work with, one of the first recommendations is to identify the options, the preferences, the settings, whatever they want to call it. And just take a peek around and get familiar with where things are. All right, so because of YouTube going with the 1280 by 720 whatever as their format, that's what I've set my screen to, and it kind of messes with the resolution. Certainly prefer the 19 by 1,000, and but this has been very reliable, and I want to always try new things. So we'll see if I can get, when we get to the relations and some of the other visuals, if I can get the capture software to zoom. All right, so going into SolidWorks, you've launched SolidWorks, you see the welcome screen. For a while, if you look back through, I watch my old videos and think, yeah, that kind of annoyed me, but now I'm getting used to it. If you don't want to see this, do not show up on startup, and I would say go ahead and leave it on. You do not need to log in. You can create an account if you want to use some of the SolidWorks features, but that isn't necessary. And then over on the right is our task pane. So anywhere I click, it's going to clear those out, and I can get back into the welcome by hitting the little house, the home. And if we do R on the keyboard, why isn't my R working? Oh, I don't have anything to be recent. All right, so that's grayed out. And recent would bring that back up. And since I've cleared everything out because I generate a lot of clutter, that usually gets pretty full. All right, so on the learn, uh, some of the different resources on SolidWorks. And I would say watch everything that is of interest to you. There are good videos and bad videos. There are things that I like to do. My way is not the only way. There are as many ways as there are people to go through these projects. You have to develop your thought process, your workflow, your muscle memory, and put it to the best use to take the ideas out of your imagination and get them onto the screen in the world of mechanical design. For this class, we're taking pretty pictures off of a piece of paper and we're reproducing them. But going forward, the goal is to have a full blank canvas, and what you create is up to you. Shouldn't be alerts. So 2025, the education version is always when you're behind. So 24 to 25, we're going to be on 24 until next July, and then we'll be on 25, 26, and then the commercial version will be released will be 26. So it's not that big of a deal. If you're using an earlier version and there are things kind of going on that um, aren't lining up, or it bothers you enough that you want to try one of the earlier videos, go back through the playlist, go to some of the previous versions, and find something that's a little more aligned to that version. Right? So one of the goals is to make it current, but always have those archives to go back to. All right, on our screen here, we have the standard Windows pull down the Standard file menu. Search, if we do the pull down next to search, we have some different options. So if I needed to look for a command, maybe I want a new part or a new file, a new document, I could type that in and the first few letters would take me to a list. Some of these are going to work once you are in a document. You've opened a part, you've opened an assembly, you're working in a drawing. If you've created the profile and the login, that will take you there. Our help files. And one of the things that I always like to point out is because we have a limited number of licenses, if you're not using your license, go ahead and deactivate it, and then you can always activate it later if you find that you're using it more. So the minimize span displays, you're always, if you have the multiple displays, sometimes I'll stretch it out if I'm working side by side or if I'm comparing documents, but we don't have borderless screens, so it's not real seamless. And then of course the maximize, restore, and then close everything. We took a look at the task panes, so things like the resources. We'll take a look at the property tab builder, the SolidWorks setting wizard. Most of the other stuff is handy, but not anything that we need to worry about right now. Design library, kind of common elements that we would work from. In addition, the toolbox is our library of fasteners. So screws, nuts, bolts, washers, you name it, pins. There's a lot of stuff in there. And then the content gives us access to additional files to work from. And then the 3D components and part supplies I haven't done much with. Our File Explorer, we can do certain things out of the File Explorer as opposed to going over to Windows. And then our View Palette is kind of an interaction. We're also going to see one over on the tree, and those two kind of work to work together. Oops, the View Palette's for the drawing, so it's going to stay grayed out until we're in a drawing. The appearances work together with our trees. So basically setting colors, scenes, different items. And then the property tab builder, if we've created one, would show up here. And this is going to assign things like part numbers and revisions, those types of things. All right, so for this video, we come back around, we have the status bar. We're going to glance down here every once in a while. And as long as you're seeing the splash screen, there's nothing open, nothing new to go from. All right, so we'll come back to the options. I wanted to touch on the add-ins. And this is where our list of additional files. So if we have a CAM program, HSM works, SolidCam, I guess I did not. I'll have to check that. The SolidWorks CAM, which is CamWorks, would show up here as the SolidWorks add-in. Toolbox library and Toolbox utilities, same as over in the features, and now a few other things that we can turn off as needed. So recommendation is right now all of these appear to be turned off. And I would say since the installation manager should not have activated any of those, we'll leave those off and not have them do anything on startup. And if they are on, go ahead and uncheck them because this is going to take longer for your SolidWorks to launch when you open it. All right, so button size, small, medium, and large. For this screen, I'm going to stay with the small. I think as far as scale, it's okay. If you want them a little bit bigger, then you can adjust. And then we get to the options, often called preferences, settings, something of the like. All right, so as we go through, there's a couple things that I'll point out right away is and there are some hotkeys that will turn these off that aren't very readily apparent as to what's going on. So We do want to enable the confirmation corner. It's going to be a little checkbox up here in the corner that says accept what you're doing and or exit out of that particular function. I'm not going to worry too much about those guys. Now these are the system. Once we've opened a document, we'll also get another full menu for the document. And the drawings, I usually uncheck the mark all part assembly dimensions because there is bring in all dimensions, and if everything's marked as a bring in all, they're kind of working against each other. So we'll address that more, but I would uncheck that one. Standard colors, there is a selection. We'll see how this one goes since this is a new install. In previous the videos, if this is blue on yours, that's okay. It didn't show up very well in the videos, so I went to the really obnoxious pink on uh, the SolidWorks scale of visuals. We'll auto rotate view normal to the sketch plane. Let's see, driven states, that one's pretty good. Prompt to set and set driven by default. Relations, display. There's one I'm looking for. Selection, the performance. If you are having video issues, we can make some minor adjustments. There we go. The enhanced graphics performance requires SolidWorks restart. If the software OpenGL. So if you're having video issues, things are acting weird on your screen, you're not able to make selections or things haze in and haze out. This would be one of the first ones I'd come check. Is if that is checked, uncheck it, see if it does its thing. One of the, or at least traditionally, the used software OpenGL, once that's checked, you can't go back and uncheck it. I don't know about reinstalling the software, but usually if you're having problems with the video and you check that and it fixes it, then it's not a hardware issue. It was something going on with the software. So we want to pay attention to those. Don't change those lightly. Make sure that there's something going on. Don't really need anything assemblies, external. We might come back to the default templates, the file locations when we do a type of cloud drive or something where we would want to use this either across a network or on multiple computers. We can utilize, so in this case, the U is the My Drive. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I have one of those templates saved to where I can pull that for multiple computers since through the Google Drive. And there's a big list of everything we might be concerned and want to point to. So this is still pointed to the SolidWorks 2023 templates. And it's kind of nice to have a catch-all, excuse me, a catch-all place to, from update to update, so that when we've created these part templates, with what we'll start with, we can kind of keep going back to those. Activation in the feature manager. All right, so a couple of things that I don't that I turn off and that I turn on. I like to see the solid bodies, so you're going to see those, whether I intended or I accidentally. I want to make sure that I can see those solid bodies and identify them. Sensors I don't really use. History I don't really use. So those are a hide. If we need to turn it on, we can always come back in and activate it later. A lot of this is going to be automatic, and you'll see these in a minute when we, or probably in the next video when we open up a part. All right, so what else was in here? Always look for, and nothing really there. The all important, if you're used to the mouse wheel zoom going the other direction, we definitely want to know where that checkbox is at. backup and recovers, the systems have been stable enough that I haven't been really doing auto recover. Pay attention to this folder. I talk a little bit about some of the non-disclosure sensitive projects I've worked on, and found that Solidworks was backing up my entire archive of what should have been encrypted files just to a standard document folder, to the app data local temp. And you just want to be aware of where these are. Probably put them in my documents so that you can see how much is in there and what it's actually backing up. If you have a touchscreen, and my laptop is a touchscreen, I've done a little bit of that. It's not really that spectacular, so I haven't stayed with it too much. Whole wizard locations, if we were pulling off of a network or needed to have some commonality between systems, we'd go make those adjustments. Let's see, the File Explorer, what do we want to see over here? Those defaults are fine. Search and indexing. Multi-user, probably not so much. I'm just going to kind of click through these. I am not that big of a fan of enable the 3D interconnect, so I have that turned off. If it imports a solid, it will just show me the solid body as opposed to retaining a link back to the original file. There are advantages and disadvantages, but on my focus being the machining, there are limitations to how these translations come across and what can be selected. So it may have gotten better, and it's time to try it again. But usually I'll just turn that one off. And then the export for all of the different styles. Step being the most common. What are we putting out? And well, most common that we use. The other one would be the parasolids. But I think step is probably the go-to right now. So nothing really to change in there. We'll go ahead and finish up this video, and then in the next video open up a document and look at the options for a document.